My name is Matt Schmidt, and I guide people to heal themselves through powerful methods of hypnosis. A lot of people have been asking me or contacting me who have had sessions with other practitioners, and they're like, well, we got to this, but why didn't it go away? Um, I wasn't in a lot of those sessions, but I did learn many things through my own sessions. So, I've gotten better at explaining this ahead of time so people don't run into these roadblocks. But we're going to talk about a few of those things and a few things you can address if you've had a session. All right, so the first one is that sometimes it takes a while for these things to process. Okay, some things can happen instantly. Some things take a little bit of time for everything to process. Okay, the first thing I ask is when someone says, "Oh, this didn't happen." Um, the first thing I ask them is, "Did you listen to the recording of your session?" The recording of the session is such a huge part of the healing process because after a session, it's almost like fresh fallen snow in terms of like neuroscience. You have a chance to determine what paths get hardwired in. If you don't listen to that, it's real easy to slip back with what's familiar, what's comfortable, and then nothing's going to change. If you go back to the exact same thing you were doing, the same thing that got you there, nothing's going to change. You're going to go right back to what was happening in your life before. Okay, so that's the first thing I said. Did you listen to your session? Okay. The next question I asked them is, are you doing what you told yourself? If they told them the problem that they're experiencing is because of their job, and they decided to not do anything about that, they're like, well, I'm comfortable at my job. Your problem's not going to go away. I can tell you that right now, and it's probably going to get worse because you're still not listening. But if you've got the message and you've taken the advice, then it can go away. But there is part of you are responsible for your own healing. I tell people I've never healed anyone. I only guide them to their own healing. All right. Um, your power of belief is also very possible, or very powerful. That's a possibility. So I've had people where they so strongly believe like, oh, that didn't work. I just made all that up, and they actually uncreated the healing that they got. Okay. A lot of times I'll ask this in a session. I'm like, well, what if they think they made this all up? And then there's usually some advice for them that they need. Okay, so that power of belief is so strong. Okay, so if you're listening back to it and you believed it worked, there may be some other reasons that some of these things may not work. Like we talked about, it's real easy to slip back into old things, and you have free will. You can go back to your old patterns, you can go back to your old beliefs, and a lot of times that happens when you're not listening to the recording, and not actually wanting to make a change. Okay, a lot of this comes from just staying in that what's familiar, but you can't expect yourself to get better if you're doing the exact same thing that got you there. Okay. Einstein even said you can't solve a problem from the same level that the problem was created. So you have to be prepared for a shift. All right. Well, one of the biggest things I've seen was some people don't actually want to be healed. I know it's kind of mind-boggling, and some people say, "Oh yeah, I do want to be healed," but they really don't. So what happens in these cases, like something will go away, and whatever the physical thing was, and they bring it right back. They're posting pictures online about, "Oh, this came back," and "Oh, poor me." Yeah, you brought it back. I don't mean to sound rude, but yeah, you brought it back in your life because there was that payback. You liked the attention that it was giving you. When that was gone, you didn't have that, so you brought it back. Another that's kind of like that victim mentality. Okay, you're getting that. Another thing is that payback that you'd get, let's say for like disability, it can be like a financial payback. So I've seen this with people that, oh, I've been on disability for this long, and well, I wouldn't know what to do if I didn't have my disability check. So they actually recreate the condition so they can go back to that way of life, and then nothing changed. Sometimes stuff does get better and gets better for like 3 weeks, a month, and then comes right back because they don't want to make that shift. Okay, so you really have to be ready to make that change. All right. Sometimes. Sometimes people have had something for so long that they wouldn't know who they are without it. We all know people like this. People that the second thing that follows their name is what condition they have. Like, oh, my name is so and so, and I have Parkinson's, or I have like they didn't identify so strongly with a condition, and all they do is talk about that. Their next appointment, the medication they're on, and they actually don't want to let it go. They may say they do, but they don't because they wouldn't know who they are without it. And they've never considered life beyond that without it because it's become so much a part of them, right? And sometimes people have just gotten used to it, but you don't have to. That doesn't have to be a part of you anymore. So they wouldn't know. That's usually what I ask people that have these lifelong conditions. I'm like, okay, you're healed today. What are you going to do with the rest of your life? And for some of them, they've never thought about it. They've never envisioned like what life could be like without this. So that's very powerful. So they don't slip back into those old ways because they go back to what they know. So that you really have to get them thinking outside the box. So what would I do if all this was gone? And a lot of people be like, it's amazing. Like I'd be running, I'd be doing all this stuff. And it gets them looking like, okay, this is going to happen, and they can start to envision this, and then the rest of everything just follows. All right. Sometimes when we do this, I've learned to be more exhaustive in my questioning, but sometimes there are multiple layers. Okay. Sometimes we'll clear stuff, and sometimes there's multiple conditions that are causing the same, multiple sources that are causing similar symptoms. So, oh, this one was from this, and when that goes away, then the new one becomes apparent. It's usually less severe, but it's another layer of healing that we have to address. And this happens quite a bit with things where someone has a really severe like back problem or something, and we figure out what the cause of that is, but then they'll be like, oh yeah, I still have a little problem right here. Well, that's because there's something else. But sometimes there are certain things have to fall in place. Like, oh, first you have to do this, then you can get past this, and then you can move forward on your path. So there has to be like some of those stepwise things. Sometimes it just takes longer. Our bodies take a while, or we have the belief that our bodies will take a while to heal, which I find is more of the case. Like, oh, they think it'll take this long. It doesn't have to, but they think it'll take like 2 months for this to heal. So like it can happen right now, but their belief is that it has to take that long to heal. So I've also learned to address that now too. Sometimes too, I've noticed with like other like fears and stuff like that, sometimes they're buried, and if they're really like strongly ingrained, we really have to dig to the bottom to get them. So I've learned like sometimes we just scratch the surface. For people that do this on my end, sometimes you have to be like very thorough in our questioning. When was the first time this happened? What was the reason for this happening? What emotion is tied to this? Did they learn all they needed to? If you didn't learn all that you needed to, there's still something more that you have to learn from this condition. So once you've learned everything that you need to, then it can go away. Okay? So hopefully this helps out some of you. And if you have any questions, feel free to contact me. I'm always available. So yeah, we'll see you on the next video. Thanks for watching.